But I really think it's important to emphasize the human side of it. There's got to be a coexistence between the security measures that are put in place with technology. And so you have, not just one piece of technology, all the technology of themselves, assuming they're reputable and kind of, progressive organizations, are kind of staying in touch with where best practices need to be as far as username, password management, policies, putting in multi-factor authentication as an example. But then you start to have this compounding problem with software online, is that you use more than one piece of software. You use multiple pieces of software. So you don't really want to be using the same username and password for 15 different applications that you're logging into, hence the value of the password manager and why it's important to actually go through that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the tools? What is a password manager and how does it add value to people's lives?
A password manager is actually a really great example of a security tool that helps you be more secure in the way that you log into your systems and use your systems, that actually improves convenience and speeds up the process as well. So I think all of us in the past have had that experience where you go to log into a system that you might only log into once a month or once every couple of months. You go to log in, you go, what is my password? I can't even remember what that is. So then you have to stuff around, you try a few, you might have to hit forget my password, get it emailed, reset it, etc. If you have a password manager, which is a piece of software which is installed on usually both your computer as well as your phone, then all you need to do is be logged into that password manager and it will autofill the username and password into that system for you and off you go. So it means that all you need to remember is the password to get into your password manager, and then it can generate unique, strong passwords for each and every different piece of software that you use, and then store the details for you so that you don't even know. For myself, in our business, we use all sorts of technology, and certainly in my personal life, I've been an early adopter of technology for a long time. So I have several hundred different services that I use on various different frequencies. And the only password I know off the top of my head is the one to get into my internet banking and the one to get into my password manager. Everything else is stored within that password manager.
Now this definitely relates to that.
Exactly. So this can sometimes then raise further questions or concerns around, well, how do I know that I can trust the password manager? And this is definitely something that we've come across many times, that people are concerned about putting all of those passwords into a piece of software that is written by somebody else and managed. And I completely understand that. I can assure people that the research shows that password managers are far more secure than any system or process that you could have in place yourself to create new passwords. Many people try, different processes, like they might have one base password and then they change a couple of letters at the start or a number at the end or anything like that. All of those processes are well known amongst cyber hackers and attackers, and you'll be exploited for that. You also need to think about what is the intention of the company that owns and sells the password manager. If for a password manager to be well known and reputable across the world, they are highly motivated to keep your passwords very, very secure and to have, the best encryption, the best services in place to keep it that way. Because otherwise, they don't have a business. You're not talking about IBM that has 50,000 different products and this just happens to be one of them. When you're talking about one password, which is the password manager that we recommend, they are a password manager business. That is their business. So they are highly motivated to keep your data and your password secure, and I would trust them over any system that I could introduce myself.
Yeah, and they also, that one and a couple of others use an architecture called privacy by design, which means that the actual password that you're entering into it isn't even visible to them. So even if they were hacked, for argument's sake, which they spend a tremendous amount of time, money and effort avoiding that, but even if they were, your password's not actually in their servers. So that's a really important thing to understand about the password manager. What are some other tools in the kit bag for Cinch security?
Yeah, so some of the other products that customers may need and so therefore can get through our service, one of them is cyber insurance. So we've spoken a fair bit about the effort and the trouble it can be to respond to an incident, and we would never say that a business is 100% cyber fit or secure. There's always a chance that something could go wrong. And so it's about being prepared and ready to respond. Now, you can do that internally by having an incident response plan that is written that we will help our customers to write for their business. But also, if you purchase cyber insurance, you then get access to all of the experts that your insurer already has a relationship with that will help you respond accordingly. So that's not just the likes of forensics to actually delve into your computers and find out what went wrong. It's also PR experts, it's lawyers, it's it's all the people that you might need to be able to handle dealing with the regulators, dealing with your customers, etc. So cyber insurance is a really important one that we recommend to just about every small business. Another one is email filtering. So when it comes to emails, that is for most businesses the riskiest technology that they will use, simply because it is used in every aspect of most businesses. And so having malicious emails entering through that system into your inbox naturally increases the chances that you're accidentally going to click on something that you shouldn't, be tricked into it, as millions of people are every year. And so if you have a good filtering system included, and we use MailGuard, that can actually stop those emails from hitting your inbox in the first place. So there's less chance of that happening. So there's some of the things that we recommend, but it all comes down to the prioritized risk. What is the biggest risk within your business, and what is the appropriate solution? Sometimes it's going to be training, sometimes it's going to be a policy, sometimes it'll be a tech, or any combination of all of them.
Yeah, and I think that's key. It's having that kind of holistic approach to cybersecurity, especially given just how pervasive it is as a risk in every single business today, and increasingly as digital transformation continues to permeate everything that we do. Some other things I might remark on as well, Susie, you also provide a managed service. So you look at things like the way backups are managed, for example, and I think that's you should talk to that, because backups is one of those things that people think that, oh, great, I've exported some data from a system, it's backed up, but meanwhile, where did you put it? Is it on your desktop, which is not as secure as the environment that you just exported it from, or did you leave it on a hard drive? And I point to those two examples because they are pretty dominant reasons for human error-related data breaches within the healthcare sector. So tell us a little bit more about the cloud backups.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not just about data breaches. It's also one of the other huge risks that has been running rife across all small businesses, but in particular healthcare over the last few years, is ransomware. And so this is where malicious code gets into your system somehow. There's many different ways. And it essentially locks up and encrypts all of the data on your systems and literally holds you to ransom. There will be a screen of death that pops up and says, unless you pay us however many Bitcoin, we're going to delete all of your records and that's it. And there are very few ways for you to be able to actually get the encryption key. Unfortunately, some people pay the ransom, which basically just continues to fund terrorism and cyber criminals. And also you're then trusting that a criminal is going to do what they said they were going to do, which naturally you can't always trust. So ransomware is a particular risk where backups is one of the most important solutions that you can have in place. So using cloud backups and making sure that the backups are run regularly, at least daily, or if it's cloud, usually instantly, means that your data and your systems can be restored if something like ransomware comes in. The issue, like you mentioned there, if you're storing it on your desktop or something like that, is that if it's stored in the same place where the original copy is stored, then that will also get infected by something like ransomware. So making sure that you are storing those copies somewhere else on a different network, a different system, that's really, really important. When you think about the risk that ransomware can bring to an allied health business, there was a I was going to say a terrific example, but it wasn't terrific. It was quite horrible a number of years ago, with WannaCry and NotPetya, which were two very famous and global, very fast-moving ransomware attacks that happened a number of years ago, and that brought down the national health system within the UK. There was numbers that said something like the first infection was detected at first thing in the morning, 9 a.m. thereabouts, and by 10:30, most hospitals in the UK had to shut down because they did not have systems. They couldn't check patient records, they couldn't check blood types, nothing. And so within allied health, that is second to data breaches. That is one of the biggest risks, because it can really bring your business to your knees very, very, very quickly. And just by having backups, you could protect your business from that risk.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really, really good advice. So one of the things I like to think a lot about is, how the technology or digital health, of which cybersecurity is a part of that. How do you see cybersecurity being experienced through the eyes of the healthcare providers' clients? Have you got some examples around that?
Yeah, I think so. I just thinking about my own experience this year. So naturally, throughout the COVID pandemic, I've noticed that many of the medical professionals that I use in my personal life have switched to digital solutions very quickly. And we all know what happened at the start of this year. Many businesses literally overnight had to figure out how to continue running their business and opening their business tomorrow using technology that they'd never used before, and very quickly implementing this technology. And so from a user experience, I know that with my local GP, previously I needed to call them up to make an appointment, and then all of a sudden I could make appointments online, and then all of a sudden I could book telehealth appointments online. So for me, I was certainly concerned around, okay, what was I required? What personal information was required for me to set up an account on those digital solutions? What was required of me in terms of security steps? So was it forcing me to use two-factor authentication when I logged into their booking systems, etc.? And that's how I judge it. So for all systems that are looking for me to provide them with my personal information, if it doesn't have multi-factor authentication, I sit back and think, do I really need to use this service? And so that, from a user perspective, is the sort of thing that gives me inherent trust in a service, because those that do force multi-factor authentication, I don't look any further, rightly or wrongly. I'm like, okay, these guys get it. I'm going to crack on and use the service.
Yeah, I think that's an important expansion of mindset as well, is to sort of understand how you can actually improve your brand, how you're perceived by your clients in healthcare, by not just seeing cybersecurity as something you have to do as a healthcare business, but actually make it a part of your brand, like incorporate it as part of your brand strategy, so that it does provide that level of confidence and trust, which ultimately, when people feel safe and you're handling their personal information, you're handling historic records, you've got a game plan you're working on together. People like to be private about these things, and if they feel exposed in any way, shape, or form, it could detract from the experience. It could detract from the quality of the alliance that's been developed between the practitioner and the client. So I'd be recommending that, aside from getting your business right and working towards those cyber fitness goals that you talked to, Susie, also thinking about how you can actually bring cybersecurity into your brand as a healthcare provider, especially when you're sending electronic communication, follow-up programs, exercise prescriptions, you're doing telehealth appointments, you're handling care plans and funding details and a whole bunch of stuff. There's just so much data.